Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 19. It's called Requiem for Methuselah. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. I was a little bit worried about this one, just based on the title. I'm not going to lie.
Me too. I assume you're a bit familiar with who Methuselah is then, based on
Yeah, I
your
mean,
fear.
enough to be like, oh god, it's going to be, you know, another one of these ancient cultures, and we're going to do, oh, but somehow they're on this other planet, and he's got mythical powers, and I'm like, oh no, we're not. And it wasn't quite that, so that's good.
Hmm.
That's good. Uh, Ultimately, it's a bit of a weird episode that is kind of frustrating in the end because the final moment might actually. It could have been one of the best moments of the entire show, one of the most touching moments of the entire show, but unfortunately, everything that sets it up is outright bullshit, and therefore it doesn't have any of the weight that it should have.
Yeah, there are some things I like in theory about the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And ideas that it's playing at, some little, things that it pokes at here or there. That okay, that's interesting. That's nice ideas. And then it just throws in this bullshit love story with Kirk again.
Well, see, that's my pick. So here's the premise of the episode. The premise of the episode is that the entire ship has been infected with a virus, which feels very like one of my first big problems with this episode is like, oh, there's a virus that spread to the entire crew, and we've got like 3 hours to cure everyone, and we need this resource off this planet to like make the cure. And I'm like, this feels really specific. It feels like so TV ticking time bomb, like made up bullshit. And I know it is. I mean, it's Star Trek. Most stuff's made up bullshit because it's sci-fi, but this
I
feels
think
especially unrealistic, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think it's more egregious here that it adds nothing. They never feel like they're rushing.
I feel like no, it feels important for the first like 10 minutes, and then once the other plot comes in, then all of a
Fair
sudden
enough.
it's just the reason why they're there, and then the rest of the plot like plays out. So they
Yeah.
go down there, run into this guy, who's kind of mysterious. He's like, "Get off my planet," even though they had like no, the scans showed no life forms. He's like, "No, I've been cloaked. Get off my planet. This is my planet. Leave. I like my privacy." And the first sign I had something was kind of up is when Kirk's negotiating with them to like stay and just let us like stay and get this resource so we can cure sick. Please, just let us do that. At one point, he actually just outright says, if you say no, we'll just do it by force." And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to show how desperate they are to get this to cure them. Like, that we'll do what you have to because there's
Yeah, but
400 odd people at risk.
first rule of Star Trek is you know
I know.
prime directive and all that, and not interfering. And
To be fair, that's only not interfering with civilizations that aren't advanced, right? This is one man.
I don't think it specifies how advanced the civilization are.
I thought that was the implication I've always got from the Prime Directive is if they're not advanced enough for space travel, don't give them technology that'll lead to space
Oh,
travel.
sure,
They've got
but
to
I mean,
develop on their own path.
no, sure. That's a big part of it, but I don't think they're supposed to interfere with any type of civilized, like influence them, like enforce their like they have to ask for help or accept them in or like they can't
I,
they don't just do it by force. They come in peace.
I think as a rule that I think that's two separate things. I think that, them not doing things by force is different. I think the Prime Directive refers to influencing their culture specifically, whereas this he's not trying to influence the culture. He's not trying to change his way of life. He's trying to just get this one resource and go. And he might kill one man, admittedly, and that's against presumably a different rule, but I don't think it falls under the same category. At least not to me, it doesn't.
I always took Prime Directive to cover a range of things, not just. I mean, I know it says Prime Directive implying it's one thing, but I
Yeah.
always kind of took it as just the general rules for interacting with other civilizations and people in space.
Maybe we'll get more on this in the future. But
Maybe
for
we will.
me, at the moment, at least, that's where I
Well,
fall on it.
regardless if it's the Prime Directive or
It's
not,
it's a bit of a dick move, yeah.
like this is so not Kirk. This no, we'll just take it by force. Never has he said anything like that. It's so unprovoked as well. He doesn't try to like he kind of like he said, "Oh, we're sick, we need help," but he never like says pleads and like so we're asking for mercy, we're asking for aid, we're here to just get a resource. They never even argue with him that it's his planet. Like they're just like, oh yeah, you can buy planets. Yeah, he's bought the planets. Fine.
To be fair, they established later on you can. So.
Oh, they do, but they don't like ask for proof or anything like that. They don't. They just like okay.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair enough. I mean they do offer to trade. You know, they're like, oh, we'll buy it, we'll trade, bargain. What do you want? What can we give you? And he still refuses. Then he's like, well, then maybe we'll force it.
Yeah, but it's just too much of a leap. The guy's not threatening. He just says no, and he just steps in and says, "We'll take it by force if we have to." And I'm like, this does not feel like Trek.
No, I do agree that it feels wrong, but I think it's supposed to be how desperate he is. Like, they're all ill, and he'll do whatever he has to.
Well,
to
that doesn't come across at all. It doesn't work.
No, fair enough.
I don't get that at all from that scene. They don't sell it that way at all. It's just this weird leap, which is a through line for the episode. Kirk's character in this episode acts so out of character at so many points just to make the plot work that it feels completely forced and bullshit. This is the first of those ones, and this one doesn't even need to be here. Like this scene doesn't even necessarily need to play out any differently without that line, because he ends up kind of convincing him anyway. And then the guy's like, okay, right, I'll come into my home and we'll set you up. My robot will go and fetch the stuff for you. And it could just play out anyway. That's actually accomplishes nothing. And if the point was just to like sell us how desperate he is, then show us them being desperate on the ship. For an episode that's about trying to save the crew which is infected with the disease, we never see one sick person the entire episode.
No, I think we only see the crew on the ship once.
Yes, but we only see Scotty and stuff on the bridge, and they're fine. Like,
yeah. I'm not disputing that. Just this one itself didn't really bother me, honestly. Lots of other problems with the episode, but this one,
I immediately sat up and went, "What the hell did he just say?" It was so against everything like I know about Star Trek for him to say that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Kirk's relatively aggressive when he has to be.
When he's being defensive, sure. This just felt so aggressive to me. It felt way out of character. I immediately went, that feels wrong. What have they done with this episode? What did they do in the writers' room? What crack were they on? It felt so off to me, and it immediately put me in this really defensive place where I was expecting more bullshit, and more bullshit did come.
It did. Other bullshit definitely came.
So they go into his place. He claims he's alone. We find out he's actually got like a woman there, and of course it's an attractive woman. And as soon as he brings her out, Kirk starts making the eyes, and it's like, oh, here we go. And at this point, it's kind of it's almost just, it's been done too often at this point. I just kind of roll my eyes really whenever there's like, oh, the attractive woman and she's into Kirk and Kirk might be into her. But this got even worse than normal, because this was, within about 5 minutes, he was talking about her as if he was in love with her. And then it kept going down that path to the point where by the end of the episode, he was jeopardizing his entire crew and focusing on her instead.
Yeah. One of the moments that really bothered me is it had already been established that her and the guy were a thing, or at least, he wanted it to be. It was not entirely defined, but they'd already had conversations establishing that there was at least some sort of thing going on between them. There's some feelings, at least one way. And Kirk just, it's like, screw it. I'll make out with her anyway.
My big problem, other than just him like talking about her as if he's madly in love, is Spock at multiple times says, oh, maybe we should leave this, Captain. We've got other things to be concerned with. And he's right. The crew's dying. On a tight schedule here. And he ends up saying, no, Spock, we're fighting over a woman. And he starts throwing punches, and he starts fighting with Flint, who's the name of the character. And this was so bizarre and like over the top and jumping to this like fight scene that my immediate assumption was that, okay, he's doing something. This is a plan. He's doing this to catch him off guard. He's doing this because it's a means to an end. He's doing this because he wants it to reveal something. Kirk is playing him. He is doing this as an act to achieve some goal of some kind. Nope. He actually just starts throwing punches because he wants to fight over the girl.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and defend this one.
I But this is the thing. Like, I sold it to myself at first. I'm like, oh, this is all for something else. Like he's doing this as like a pretend thing for some because that was that.
We've seen it before, right?
Yeah, it was that ridiculous. But no, it was just no. He's fighting because he likes the girl. He likes Rhaena.
Yeah.
And he wants her. And yeah, I oh god. And then of course the big twist of the episode is that Flint is immortal, and there's teases throughout the episode. Spock keeps noticing in the paintings. He's like, that's what painter was it? I forget.
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. I think it was Da Vinci. And he's like, oh, these look authentic Da Vinci, but they're not quite like any paintings that are on record. This is strange. And then later on, he's at the piano. He's like, oh, this is a Bram, but it's fresh. It's weird. Like it's not old paper, but it's authentic. It's authentically his. And it's like so the reveal is that he's an immortal who was both these people and a bunch of other people, including Methuselah. So
yeah, this is the one that I was expecting for most of the episode, because if you're familiar with Methuselah, he was the oldest man in the Bible, and I mean he did die in the Bible, but he was like, I want to say like 969, something stupid like that.
And to be fair, Flint's going to die soon as well. He's finally going.
Yeah. But so that was the twist I was expecting. Once it became clear, at first I saw the title and I thought the same as you. Ancient culture.
Yeah.
But once it became clear it wasn't that, I was like, okay, so he's Methuselah. I get that. So reveal fell a little flat, I guess.
It fell a little flat, and I don't really feel like they did much with it. Like, ultimately, it was more about the romance triangle, the love triangle, than it was about anything else. And of course, she turns out to be a robot. He's been building robots so that his lover will be immortal like him. And okay, I get it.
And the twist itself is something that I could see being an interesting episode. I said how there are ideas. I like the idea that there's been this guy, just a person who has lived through all of that history, and as they put it, seen humanity, stop being savages and become something better. And witness. I feel like there's something really interesting to go through in that story, and this just kind of ignores it entirely.
Yeah. And then at the end of the episode when they leave, Kirk is...
Let's not overlook the fact that he miniaturizes the Enterprise and turns it into a little model.
Oh yeah, Flint at one point when he's... I mean, again, this almost feels throwaway. It doesn't matter. It's not the point of the episode. But because they learn who he is, he's like, oh, well, he can't let us leave now. So he magically snaps his fingers and the Enterprise...
To be fair, he does press a button.
Oh yeah, I wasn't being literal.
Well, no, I just was saying he's created all this technology on his own.
Yes.
Because he's had that much time, I assume.
But he presses a button and the Enterprise just shrinks and it's like a model on his desk, which we've done before, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I remembered this from last season. We had like the episode where the Enterprise was shrunk, and it's only for a scene, and then it goes back to normal.
Do you know, the thing that bothers me is I don't understand what it adds, because the whole point is, okay, I don't want you to have the communication with the ship, because that's when he stops it. Kirk gets out his communicator and starts talking, and then it vanishes. You just see the shot of it vanishing. It was like, wait, what just happened? And then it shows up on the desk. Like, why not just block the transmission? Just make the communicator disappear. Seems way easier than miniaturizing an entire ship just because.
Show of power. It's more impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
because it kind of becomes that. That's kind of what it becomes about. Like I can kind of see the reasoning for this one.
No, fair enough.
But yeah. But at the end of the episode though, when they have to leave of course, let's not gloss over the fact that Rhaena actually dies because she's not prepared for emotions. By the way, I saw her being a robot like a mile off, because there was a line as soon as she's introduced to the guys, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Flint says something like, "Oh, she's got like 16 PhDs or whatever."
Equivalent to,
and it's like, "Oh yeah, she did all the other things, but you need the intellect first, or a person just won't." I can't believe that word. It was like either function or the person just won't be able to comprehend things. And the way he said that, I was like, okay, she's a robot.
Yeah. I'm not gonna blame the show for that one though. I think that's just us now being really aware of those things. I don't think it was,
I wasn't necessarily even meaning it as a complaint. I'm just pointing out that
yeah,
as soon as he said that line, I'm like, okay, so he's a robot then.
yeah.
I got that, and then I think so much of the episode, in retrospect, falls flat more than it did when I was watching it, because so much of it's spent on them trying to like find who this guy is and who she is, and looking into the records and being like, oh well, we can't find them, they don't exist, what's happening? And then there's so much of the mystery in that. There's so much of the first batch of like minerals that we got. Oh, they're infected with iridium, so they won't work. We have to go out and get another batch. And it's like, oh, can we trust them? Was he actually going to give us the materials to make the cure? Who knows? And ultimately, that tension's irrelevant to the actual, again, point of the episode. Once we get to the final act, none of the sickness or try to cure it is even all that mentioned or relevant. It's all kind of just gone away by that point.
Yeah. I don't get it. Like I said, there are things and ideas in this episode that I like in theory, but in execution, almost none of it works.
And the best idea is the final scene. Because the final scene, we're back in the Enterprise, and it doesn't work because it's telling us that Kirk was so madly in love with this woman robot that he met like 3 hours ago. But he's so distraught about it when he's talking to Spock that he just puts his head down and apparently immediately falls asleep, which also is kind of weird, to be honest. Like,
he
just puts his head down.
Been a long day. He was exhausted.
It's weird. Not that quickly after talking to someone though. He's like sitting upright talking to Spock, and he just puts his head down on the desk, and that's him asleep. And McCoy comes in, and McCoy and Spock have a debate about love, and McCoy's like, "Oh, you'll never understand, Spock, the pain and the glory of love, the excitement and the misery," and he goes on a little monologue about love and how Spock will never understand. And Spock, after McCoy leaves, Spock, walks over, and because McCoy's final line was like, "Oh, I wish you could forget her." The pain of remembering is going to be too much. So McCoy leaves, and Spock walks over, puts his hand on Kirk's head, and says, "Forget." He's doing the Vulcan mind meld, and he's taking away the memory. And this is actually a really sweet moment in and of itself, because it kind of proves McCoy wrong. That this action itself is Spock acting out of love.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sweet. That actually really works. I kind of dig that. Unfortunately, the reason why Kirk needs this is just complete and utter bullshit, so it doesn't have the weight it does.
I feel like if you were gonna do this, you probably should have done it in that one where he had a wife that died.
Yeah, but even then, that was still a shit episode, though.
It was, but it was... At least the episode revolved around that, kind of mostly intentionally.
Right?
Right?
Yeah, but I feel like this moment could actually be like one of the best moments of the entire show. Like, if this was at the end of an episode that really sold us on like a love that Kirk had to forget, if it really spent time in that, if it was really nailed, this could actually be like one of the pivotal moments of the show where Spock really showed this like moment of emotion and like he acted out a friendship for Kirk. This could be a great moment. Instead, it's just this kind of weird, oh, that's kind of a good idea at the end of a really mediocre episode.
Yeah. It's one of those ideas as well that I think now would be played so differently. Like on a TV show today, where it's serialized and we could see, you'd have this, in the comeback of the repercussions of him taking away memories without asking for permission to do that, right?
Yeah, very possibly. It depends how you want to play it, like, because they can make it a sweet. If it is just like a bad memory that there's no reason to remember it. Because it's one thing taking away like the entire memory of, like, let's say you had a kid who died and it completely changed who you were, and then Spock comes along and takes away like the 8 years of your kid's life.
Yeah, he's taking away an afternoon here.
Yeah, he's taking away an afternoon. It's not that bad, but that kind of brings into the problem of it's just an afternoon. Like, why was Kirk this emotionally invested?
Yeah,
because it's so quickly he's like, I don't like the way he orders her around. I don't like the way he talks to her. Also, there's a really weird shot when they're playing pool at one point, where it's like this really weird high shot where the camera feels like it's shaking around. It's almost like they didn't have the rig to actually hold the camera up there.
Yeah, I think they couldn't get high enough, so it's just someone stood on a chair.
Yeah, and it's handheld, so it's kind of shaky and weird and awkward. It stood out because everything else in this show is typically very, very mounted, so on a tripod or whatever.
Yeah,
it's all very, not a lot of handheld stuff, unless the ship's shaking about, and then it's, but I don't know. It struck me as an odd moment visually. Yeah, I dislike this episode more than I've talked about it, because the stuff that I really hated was the same stuff that I hated. But the more I talk about the rest of the episode with the mystery of like who are these people, the more
irrelevant you realize it is.
Yeah, it's mostly irrelevant.
Because that stuff is fine while you're watching it, not knowing where it's going.
Yes.
But once you realize it has no point, it becomes irritating in retrospect.
Or even the idea that he's floating robot like tries to attack Kirk at one point, and you think, oh, is the robot got a mind of its own, or is he secretly making the robots do things? And then it didn't really go anywhere. Nothing ever really comes of it.
There's just a second robot in the next scene.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like he's the second floating robot's doing okay. And I guess the point is that it's saying, oh, he's good at building robots. Therefore, when we get to her being a robot, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But again, it feels like it's building to something else with not trusting him or the robots. And ultimately, it's none of that.
Yeah. It's kind of weird now that you mention it.
Yeah. There's a lot of setup in this episode for things that don't really happen. And then... Yeah, it's frustrating. So she actually dies because she feels too much emotion. Because she feels so much love for both Kirk and Flint that she keels over and dies.
Yeah. I got nothing. I mean, what do you want me to say about that? It's stupid.
Yeah, fundamentally, I just don't buy how Kirk feels in this episode. I don't buy how he acts. At one point, he's flat out ignoring the needs of the Enterprise and his crew because he's obsessed with a woman. And I'm not saying that, like, if it was someone he really cared about that we'd known for a long time, that he wouldn't make a choice that would maybe favour her over the crew. And even then, I'd still debate it because he's Kirk and he loves his ship and he loves his crew. But at least then, I'd understand why he'd be tempted to make the selfish choice. He met her like an hour ago when he makes
I think the
call.
problem is we've had multiple episodes in the past where Kirk has had to make that choice and has always chose the crew.
Yeah, in fact, one of the best, like, well, I don't know if it was one of the best episodes this season, but one of the best ending moments I can think of was when, you know, the love spell happened, right? Where he was made to be in love with the woman, and at the end of the episode, everything turns out okay, and McCoy points out, no, the Enterprise got to his heart first, so he still made the right call.
Yeah.
Because of that. So many of the episodes, including that one, which was relatively recent, have told us that no, he will pick his duty, he will pick his ship and his crew over a love life. In fact, hell, it's been a giant character motivation for him. Right from the start of the show, his big thing is that he's kind of lonely because of that, because he doesn't have the love life.
I think one of the only exceptions to this rule maybe is City on the Edge of Forever, where he chooses the woman ultimately. The choice is kind of stolen from him, towards the end of the episode. But that episode did such a good job of selling it, though, right? It sold that relationship. That was the point of the episode. This is just, this happened quickly.
Yeah, no, you got why he was attracted to her, because she wasn't just attractive. She was a forward thinker. She was strong-willed. She was pushing things.
And some time was passing in that episode.
There was time passing, and they were also trapped in the past, where it was like, okay, maybe we'll never get back. Maybe we're just stuck here now.
Yeah,
we maybe have to change our lives, but
he was willing to risk changing history, admittedly.
Yeah.
But that's the only key exception, I think, to the rule of he always chooses the crew and the Enterprise.
Yeah, and this one just doesn't justify it. It never does.
No.
Not only does it not justify that he picks her over the Enterprise at one point, it never justifies anything he says about her, ever.
No, I don't think it does.
It's literally she walks in the room and all of a sudden there's goo eyes getting made at each other, and that's it.
And then they play some pool and Flint's like, hey, she dances.
And then never...
Watch her dance.
Yeah, it was like a 3-minute dance sequence.
There was a far too long dance. It's weird that there is a really awkward scene as well, like, where Flint's watching them through the monitors, just being all lovey and making out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on way longer than any of these scenes ever do in Trek.
Actually, that's the other thing. They set up early on that he's got cameras everywhere, and he's like secretly watching them have conversations when he's not around. And it does that like 3 times, but ultimately it never really... I don't know.
I think the point was supposed to be that everything, just being aware that everything was happening with his permission. He wasn't stopping it because the point was he wanted Kirk to make her fall in love so that she'd experience the emotion to make her real, right?
Yeah.
So he was just it was. I think the purpose of the cameras was showing the audience that he is aware of all this and he is on board with it happening. He's not feeling betrayed. He's not trying to stop it. He's just this is part of his plan.
So what do you ultimately think the point of the episode was supposed to be, though? The idea that he creates this robot, he wants her to feel, and he tries to do that by kind of like giving her a jump start with Kirk and other people that she's never met, and it ultimately kills her because it's like. What do you think it's actually trying to say with that?
I mean, I could be completely wrong here. I think it's supposed to be a warning against playing God, right? The idea that it's not for us to create life because it's going to backfire.
I mean, I get why you'd say that. I don't think there's anything in the episode that actually points to it, though. Does that make sense?
Just the idea of we have created this AI. We're trying to this robot. We're trying to make it a real person, but we just can't do it. We end up causing more harm than good.
Yeah, I don't feel like the episode actually lingers. Like, I get why you're saying that. It makes sense that
it's the only thing I can get from it. But I agree that it's not a huge factor.
The episode's not really pointing in that direction. If anything, it's like more like, no, she's a real person because she actually does feel things, and she deserves the right to choose because she is like real enough to make her own choices.
Yeah.
Which is actually more Star Trek in a lot of ways.
It is, but it doesn't really fit with the ending, does it?
No. Well, that's the thing. The ending's got nothing to do with her being a robot. The ending's just about Kirk's love struck. She didn't need to be a robot for that.
I know. I'm not disputing that.
That's what I'm saying. So many of the ideas in this episode don't seem to actually click together. It's just they're all separate things. The fact that he's immortal's kind of on its own. The fact that it's a robot who wants to be alive or he wants to have real feelings is kind of on its own as an idea. The fact that Kirk is so love struck that he needs to have his mind wiped and Spock doesn't understand love, which arguably is the best part in the idea of the episode, is kind of separate from all that as well. Like they're all the idea of the ship all being sick and needing to be healed is again separate. It's all these separate things that don't quite click together for some bizarre reason.
Yeah, this is really quite a bad episode, isn't it?
It is, and it's not embarrassingly bad. Like it's not like the one where they were on all fours and shit or anything.
No,
like
it's just frustratingly bad.
Yeah, it's frustrating. All right, there you go. That's this episode of Star Trek. Getting near the end though. We've only got about 5 left, and then we're at the movies, so you can look forward to that.
Yep. Not too long now.
And I know we're getting close because I was making the thumbnails actually the other day for the movies. So
of course you were.
We're getting there. Well, I'd like to plan ahead. I'd like to be ready. So let us know what you thought of this one. And just to reiterate, I think the ending scene's a great scene on its own. Nothing actually builds to it. Like nothing feels like it's earned it, which is really upsetting.
Not at all.
Alright, so that's Star Trek. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments and stuff. If you want to support the channel and get these a week early, you can go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You get these already cancelled a week early. I just started doing Babylon 5 on my own as an already cancelled series, so you get those early as well. If you're into sci-fi, you might be worth checking that out too. You can also get other stuff at the higher tiers and whatnot, but it does support us a lot if you go over there and submit $1 once a month. And if you can't do that, don't feel too bad. You can of course like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, watch the ads on YouTube, turn off ad block, all that does help. It really does. So that is us though. So get us on Twitter at @mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. So keep watching Star Trek, guys, and we'll see you next time.